Hello freaky friends, it's just your friendly neighborhood horror writer, Tia. Today I'm going to show you a hack on how to keep your book series straight and how to do that troublesome synopsis. So we've all been there. Somebody asks us, what the hell is our story about? The book may even be written. And we're trying to figure out how to say in as few words as possible what our book is. The dreaded synopsis. And almost every author I know, it is the bane of our existence. You know, we've spent all this time fleshing out this novel, and now you want me to compress it down to a paragraph? How the hell am I supposed to do that? I had to come up with a way to create a synopsis, an honest synopsis of what my book was about. And in doing this, I also figured out a way to make a record of each book so I can go back and have something to reference for the next book in the series, because sometimes you're going to forget. So I came up with a solution. This was my solution. It's just a simple notebook, but it was a bit time consuming, but it was really worth it. In this notebook, I broke down each chapter to all the important tidbits. And actually, since I've been working on the audiobook, this has come in very handy, and I've actually added some extra notes and details per chapter. This can also help you kind of figure out what chapters you need and what chapters you don't. Granted, now that I've done the audiobook, I've kind of realized some chapters that I needed to tweak or divide in a certain way, but I think that's kind of a hindsight's 2020 kind of thing. But the notebook actually helped me be a better writer and kind of get a better idea of where my arc, where my story is going, and it helps me kind of figure out where I'm going from there. So let's begin with the notebook. This notebook was born out of many ideas and many needs that I had, but the main thing that got it kicked off was my need for a synopsis. And like a lot of people that struggle with that, we tend to meander, we tend to focus on the points that aren't important, and we're giving too much information and usually not the right information. So what I decided to do, and it's a long process to get to a synopsis, but the notebook will end up helping you later on in your series so you can go back as a reference point. So you have several things on your page. If dates are important to you, if the time's important to you per chapter, if you're under time constraints, you want to make sure that your chapter only takes up 2 days and not 5 and then screws up your calendar. That was something very important to me in my first book, The Lesser Devil. So I write down the dates and sometimes the time. I'll also note where this is taking place, and I will note what characters are coming in. If it's the first time we've met them, or if this is just, oh, okay, he's still here, or whatever. If it's an intro to a character for the first time, I will give a brief description. But it's very important to kind of have it to where you can see it easily. This is where the character was first introduced, because that is very important as your series goes on and you're like, oh, I want to reference this thing. Well, how did they meet? What are their feelings? That kind of thing. Since I've been doing the audiobook, I have found that it is very important for me to know the number of pages per chapter. So, write that little bit of note. Sometimes you can be like, wow, that's a really long chapter. I have the short, and I have this, then I have 3 long chapters. Is that going to be a lull in my book? Is that going to slow things down? You can kind of see the rhythm of your book that way. And I kind of wish I had done that beforehand. It is something I learned. I had a pretty good rhythm, but I do have some overly long chapters in the middle of my book, and I wish I had noticed it before. When you're writing your notes, be sure to name the place. They're at the coffee shop, Beans and Things. they're talking about, something they heard in the news. What's the name of the DJ? What are specific names that you can hold on to and bring throughout the series? Then you do a brief description of the chapter in a paragraph, maybe two, depending on how long the chapter is, of what's happening, what's going on. And as a general kind of lazy rule, you can kind of take the first or last sentence or both of each paragraph in your chapter, and you can kind of get the gist of what's going on. You boil it down to its essence. Lydia woke up, the cats were sleeping beside her, she heard scratches at her closet door. And you just keep these brief sentences. But I would write a short paragraph or two, depending on how long the chapter is, describing what is supposed to be going on. And at the bottom of the page is where you have your purpose and your conflict pertaining to that chapter. The purpose is kind of the overarch of the book, and the conflict is only with the chapter itself. Now, your purpose is usually the overarch of your whole book. What is the purpose of this chapter? What is the point of this chapter in your book, in your series? The conflict is what you need in every single chapter. You have to have a conflict or you're going to have a boring ass chapter. So after the purpose, you look at the conflict. What is the conflict? Is it that the apple has a worm in it? Is it because the apple's sour? Is it because she hates apples? What is the conflict? You're going to need to do this right in that sweet spot where you're just done editing the book, any brutal edits, maybe some tweaking, and you're right about to publish, and you're trying to get that synopsis for your back cover. That's when I recommend you read your book and you sit down and you do your chapter synopsis to find your book synopsis. So you have the purpose of each chapter. You write down the sentence or two sentences from each of your chapters, and then from there you can kind of see what the overarch of your book is, and then you can start to whittle it down to just the meat and potatoes, what's important to get the story out there, to describe the story honestly. After I did this, I realized more about my book than I would have otherwise. I think we kind of get page blind when we've been editing and writing and editing and writing and more editing. We kind of get page blind to what we wrote. And I think this helps you kind of wake up to what your story is actually about. I know it's a lot of work, but it is worth it. And I tell you, it's invaluable to have at your side and at your desk when you're working on your next book. I'm working on Wendigo Rising, and I've already referenced this notebook more times than I can count, being like, okay, wait a second, what did Varric say at that one time? And what was Lydia's answer?
Or who was listening in? Or who was in that door? Or...
Find the purpose of your book, one chapter at a time, and make sure your conflicts make sense, and make sure that you have a driving force for every chapter. And pay attention to the rhythm of your chapters. I screwed up a little bit on my first one, but I'm not going to make the same mistakes. I'm going to make brand new ones. I hope this made some sense. I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I have found that this notebook process, this hack, really saved me more times than I can count, and I know that it's going to keep saving my ass as my series continues on. Tell me if this works for you, and if you have any ideas how to make this hack even better, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and make videos every other Monday. Till next time, may the night protect you as you protect the night.